Hi everyone, welcome to week 6 of English 102. So this video this week is going to be pretty short and sweet. Right now we're just still looking through the sources that you guys have found so far, gathering a few more of them and doing a sort of final evaluation and comparison between them. So the assignments you've got for this week are going to include your readings and discussion board number 6. Don't skip the readings. I know that, I don't do a reading quiz or anything like that for 102, but I do try and make the discussion board something that you have to utilize the reading for. But especially this week, these readings are exactly what you need to be thinking about and doing for your assignments. So before you reach out to me with a question about the evaluation assignment that you have or the discussion board, do the reading and you'll likely find the answer there. You'll have group blog 5, which will need to be posted by your archivist by Friday, and that will be just organizing your research paper into an outline, and we're going to start writing those drafts next week. So I'm just going to do a little sort of overview of the main assignment you have for this week, and then go over your working thesis, which we wrote last week. So your assignment for this week is to do what I call a categorizing and evaluating sources assignment. So when you think of what it means to categorize, that is really assigning a place, a label to each of your sources, forming that into a chart so that you can kind of easily see the type of sources that you have, the information that they pertain to, and how you might start to build those into a research essay. So what you're first going to do is make a chart that compares your sources together. And that can be, as many categories as you want. I would like to have at least, I think the assignment says 4. And then you'll need 6 sources total. So many of you probably have at least 4 from your annotated bibliography. So you'll need to find 2 more. More than 6 is fine, but no less. Then you're going to write a 2 to 3 page analysis of that chart. Essentially, what is that chart showing you? You want to use your working thesis and kind of say, all right, these sources are really helping me answer this, or maybe I have kind of some gaps in knowledge here. I'm noticing these weaknesses among my sources, or I'm noticing these strengths. I have kind of seen this patterning with the sources that I'm finding. So we're spending a lot of time in this first writing project really in your sources, asking you to kind of see how do these apply to the knowledge I already have, how do they apply to each other, and sort of what is that conversation. And this assignment in particular, I hope will help you to kind of visualize your sources and the information they're giving you. So as you're kind of going through this assignment, make sure that you start with your working thesis. That is your guide. So remember that we started in week 3 with research questions about your topic, and your working thesis is the answer to your research question. You're going to ask yourself things like, how do your sources relate together? Are there any gaps? What's missing? What kind of sources do I have, and do I need others? Remember that CRAP test that we talked about in week 4? You're looking now really a kind of bird's eye view of your sources, but you still also individually want to think about, are they credible, reliable, do they have the authority, what purpose were they made for? So don't forget those things. And I did notice in our discussion board this week that a lot of you are doing really well with a working thesis and the idea of having an argument that forms the basis of your essay. Some of us, though, I think do need to look at this a little more closely. So first of all, your thesis is not a question. Even if it doesn't have a question mark at the end, but it sounds like a question, that's not a thesis. But your thesis can answer that question. It's not a statement of fact. So your thesis is not something that is simply agreed upon by everyone. It is not a fact. It needs to be complex, it needs to be complicated, and it needs to provide your view on this social issue, but driven by your research question. So if you're kind of confused on what this means or, how to form a thesis, go back to your research question, and then, given what you know now, answer your question. So instead of your thesis being how are family members affected by addiction, your thesis would be family members are affected by addiction in these ways. But you want to turn that into an argument. So something like maybe the most prevalent issue for family members in dealing with addiction, or the most pressing problem for families dealing with addiction. That is where you sort of bring your argument into it. So I found a visual that might help you kind of think through this. So first of all, I've noticed some pretty common issues with writing thesis statements is in this second portion that says thesis statements that suck. Your thesis statements don't suck, but sometimes maybe you're missing a key element. So you don't want a thesis that is announcing something. And these examples here are about the Minions movie, but hopefully you can also apply this to your own topic. So you don't want to announce. You don't want to state the obvious. You don't want to say, this research will show, or this paper will argue. Just say what you're going to say. Just give your position. And also don't ask a question. Your thesis is not a question. If you're kind of confused as to how to word your thesis, this is a really great formula to use. So this example they give you here says, from examining claim 1, claim 2, and claim 3, it's clear that, opinion. So they have, from examining Minions' cramped working conditions, low pay, and lack of vacation entitlement, it's clear that Gru's a bad employer whose HR practices should be investigated. If you are looking at, we'll keep that addiction example. So maybe I could say, from examining the effects that addiction has on family members, friends, and the addict themselves, it's clear that addiction has just as much as an effect on family as it does on an individual. Might need a little work, but it is definitely getting there. So this week, we are categorizing your sources. You're going to work on an outline with your group, and then next week and the week after is when we're going to kind of finish up this first writing project. So next week you'll have individual findings, your sort of individual research draft due. We'll have a draft for your entire group's essay next week. And then week 8, you'll have a group evaluation, and then the final draft of your group research essay. So week 7 and week 8, you guys really need to be in communication with each other and following the instructions that I give you. All right, it might be a good idea if you know that the fall season is upon us. So if you know that you're going to be super busy at work, or you've got something coming up, you want to make a plan with your group that you're staying in communication. It is unacceptable to not be communicating with your group, and that will impact your final grade. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, I will see you online.